Hello, my friends. I'm Larson, and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today, we are breaking down the changes that I am going to make to the TE300 that I've been putting time on. Now, if you've been following along, we aren't 100% sold on the Husky. There's things I like about it, but there's certain things I don't like about it. And I want to break those down in this three-part series. The major things that I want to change on this bike to bring it up to the standard that I'm looking for. As you guys know, I've put a lot of time on the betas. I put a lot of time on most of the brands. I've done the Sherco, I've done the betas. I'm now putting time on the Riehus. Here I am on the Husky, and there's just certain things I want to make better. There's three major things I want to make better, and we're going to break them down episode by episode, location by location, showing you guys how we build a well-rounded machine. So we're going to get to the suspension. You guys know I was kind of talking about it settling in the corners. I want it to settle a little bit more, but be able to handle those hard hits. It could be to the rigidity of the frame. We've made some suspension adjustments. We're going to get to that in a later episode. We're going to talk about the power delivery. You know, I'm always looking for that smooth, carb-like, perfectly jetted power. We have some changes that we've made to that, which I'm very excited to get into and kind of show you guys the testing that I've done. But today I want to start with basically what everyone has asked me about. I get so many questions, so many DMs and comments. Since the first video that we put out breaking down the TE300, everyone asks, what about the brakes? What have you done? What changes have you made? Originally, I was going to jump to the Brembo stuff. I know the Brembo stuff has been tried and true, but we made a little bit of a different change. I'm really excited to break it down for you guys today. So starting out with the brake tech stuff, I ran into a couple problems with brake tech. Right off the bat, originally what I felt was a very spongy front brake. We bled it. I did a zip tie trick where you kind of tie it down and in transit, and that usually kind of makes it feel a little bit better. All of these things helped, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. I struggled to do the front brake tricks that I do. Front brake is important in hard enduro. You're constantly dragging. You use the front brake a lot, even sometimes during a double blip, to get extra suspension compression and rebound over the obstacle. So I'm always using that front brake constantly, and if I don't have a good feel there, I really struggle to get that out of my mind. I've used brake tech stuff in the past. In fact, most of my trials bikes are brake tech components. They work great. Even the clutch components that I've used with brake tech, I like the feel of the clutch. It's a nice soft pull. The engagement zone is nice and wide. I actually really like the brake tech clutch on this bike in particular, but on the gases, and of course the trials bikes that I've tested in the past. But the brakes were just kind of a struggle, and I couldn't seem to fix that brake tech front brake. Now, on the same side, this also has a brake tech rear brake, and I was riding, I swear, just slowing down, going to open a gate, and the caliper broke on the brake tech brake, which was super surprising to me. I mean, I could see it if I bashed it on something, but I didn't crash. I didn't do anything to weaken it. It just broke. And in the comments, I noticed quite a few people have had problems with this. They're not impressed with the brake tech stuff. So that's something that was pretty disappointing. I mean, obviously, when you get a brand new bike, you want the brakes to work good. And no matter what we did, we just couldn't get them to perform up to standard. So I replaced the rear brake with a Brembo. But going from there, I actually wanted to go deeper. I've never really done a big upgrade on brakes before. I'm very excited with what we went with. This entire system is upgraded with Moto Master brake components. Now, this stuff is extremely high-end, high-quality stuff. If you guys follow any of the GP stuff, most of the FIM guys are running Moto Master stuff. It's very high quality. As soon as you get it out of the box, I'm like, whoa. Just the look of it itself is really, really satisfying. It's one of those things where like, this stuff is really, really trick. I'm very excited about the performance already. I've put a little bit of time on it. So let me talk about what we upgraded. We went Moto Master front and rear calipers, pads, rotors, and lines. Okay, so we went the full system upgrade. We're still using the Masters, and there's a reason behind that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can see right off the bat the quality of this stuff. It's amazing looking, and immediately you feel the difference when you're on the bike. The feeling of that controllable friction zone where you can drag, but also lock up and get those stoppies, get that control. It really does feel like upgraded brakes, which again, I've never done before, and I've never ran this quality of braking system, and I've got to say I'm extremely impressed. So once again, we did brakes, rotors, calipers, and lines, and right off the bat, as soon as we bled them, put them on, got them dialed in, it feels incredible. We've also added the Moto Master clutch lever and brake. Now, most of the time, I am not an aftermarket lever guy. I love the feel of the stock lever, and I gotta say, they've really done a good job at kind of retaining that feel. It's very thin. It feels like a stock lever. A lot of times I don't like the way an aftermarket lever feels on my finger. A lot of times I feel like the engagement point of these kind of breakaway style levers is tough to get dialed in. And honestly, it feels the same as stock, which I'm very impressed with. Honestly, it seems like something that would be simple for aftermarket companies to make, but I've struggled to find an aftermarket lever that I like. Most of the time, I'm just buying the OE levers as replacements when I break them. So I'm really impressed with the feel of these. We're going to put more time on them as we kind of go through. But yeah, right away, I'm super excited and super pumped about them. Now, we also did a gearing change. We went from 1345, which is stock, to 1348, 3 teeth bigger in the rear. We also changed the components here. These are also Moto Master components, front and rear sprockets, and a new chain. Obviously, high quality stuff. You can tell it looks good. We're going to talk more about why I made that change as we kind of get into the technical riding and showing you guys the live breakdown on what I'm looking for when it comes to the braking components, as well as the gearing components as I upgrade the 2024 TE300 from Husky. Very excited. Let's get right into it. All right, right off the bat, I want to talk about why brakes are so important. I mean, obviously you need to stop, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Especially in the technical riding that we do in hard enduro, there's a lot of setup that you use using both front and rear brakes to get you set up for an obstacle, to get you set up for the next line. If you're in a sketchy situation, to settle that rear tire, there's a lot that you do to make sure that you have the highest likelihood of success. With the brake tech stuff, it felt like every time I would go to get a quick stab, to be able to kick that rear around in the direction that I need, it would end up just kind of blowing through in kind of a slow drag into lockup, where you need to have the ability to do that slow drag. You need to have that sort of friction zone with the clutch, the ability to kind of modulate that, whether you're dragging in the technical stuff. As I approach certain obstacles, I'll kind of drag coming into the face. Or if I need a quick stab to get that rear tire into the air and set up. It's a huge piece of what we do. Obviously, you guys can see as I was kind of warming up, getting used to the brakes, doing some of the lines out here, I use a lot of that quick stab, that ability to maneuver that bike. And brakes are super important for that. With that being said, you know, let's talk a little bit about like some lines that we do. Again, even here, right now I'm dragging both front and rear in this situation. I'm usually quite front bias. You can see I'll go into balance like that, and I'm using my front brake to kind of slip into the front tire, holding that balance position. But as we hit obstacles, we go through. That was a little sloppy, but rear and front to stop there. Right there, a nice stoppie to get it kicked over. Now, if I need to line up for this obstacle, I can use the front stab, just like that, to kick it over and get me in the position where I can make it. Maybe. Nice. Now, I also use it, obviously dragging on the way down, to set the rear in place, just like that, kicking that bike over. Using the front brake to kind of maneuver in my inside foot to set that in the correct place. Once again, a quick kick here. Set me up for hopefully this splatter here. Oh boy. Front and rear brake on the stop there too, on that little splatter, making sure I stop, set up, making sure I'm in the right position here, kicking that rear over. You can see how often I'm using that front brake. Truly, on the brake tech stuff, I just couldn't get it to grab in those situations. Let's hit this wall here.
kind of scary on the big bike. It's actually easy on the trials bike, but a little scarier on this thing. Oh boy. It just got a little bit wild coming up the face of that. As I'm coming in, both front and rear, using a drop here, we're front and rear brake. Careful, balanced. Front and rear, front and rear. Not bad. You can see the importance there. That ability to modulate the control of the machine with the front and rear brake, not just the clutch and throttle. And again, if your brakes are feeling kind of spongy, doing those maneuvers is really tough. Let's do that wall and see if I can get it better. How about set up like this? Notice I step out, kick the bike down the hill. Let's go back up here. Ooh, missed my footing, almost crashed. All good. There we go, one more try. Front and rear brake. I come to a stop often, especially on downhills. If I go to a seated position on downhills, look, my feet are way forward. Being in a balanced position on downhills is super important. I always say, slow as you can for as long as you can on downhills, but also balance, being able to static balance on downhills is key. Let's see if we can get this wall right. I kind of rushed to go to the right there. I lost a little traction coming in. Definitely pulls you to the right. One other thing I want to talk about, front and rear. Obviously, front and rear brakes are extremely important. Now, one other thing I want to talk about here is MotoMaster setting me up with the front and rear sprockets and chain. I changed the gearing slightly on this. Now, through all of that, I was in first gear. As you know, I went up 3/2 in the rear. So it was 1345 stock. I went up to 1348. Now, that's a pretty good size change. If I was riding a lot more hard enduro like racing, I would probably go closer to 1248 or 1250. The reason I stuck with the 13 front tooth sprocket is because I do a lot of clips. And I'm not gonna lie, doing the riding that I was just doing there, the more technical kind of play riding, that stuff takes a nice long first gear. You want a nice long first gear. You don't want to be fighting to get the power up in the second gear. This keeps that long first gear, the ability to lug, the ability to keep the bike down in the power, but it still allows me to use second gear if needed in those technical sections. So I want you to listen to the bike here. I'm still not satisfied with the way I did that wall. So let's do it one more time. Front and rear brake here. Oops. Holding balance. Pulling me to the right every time. So I'm going to come in and try to stick to the left as best as I can. No dabs. That's how we wanted to do it. So you can hear there, I'm still in a good position. Ooh, still in a good position. As far as first gear, once again, that was first gear. And if I want, I can go up to second. You can hear this is second. And it will pull me. If I'm in a technical section, you know, working my way up. Let's see if I can go up this. Once again, this is second. Listen to the bike. Lugging, low power. Still has the ability to pull me all the way up. Let's see if we can go down this. Ooh. So here we'd like to set up. It's a little bit to the left right now. So I'm going to kick the front over. I'm going to find a good spot. See that? Kicking that rear tire, setting me up clean. Nice downhill. It is so important to have those front and rear brakes assisting you in those technical sections. It's important to have that right gearing too, right? You guys can hear as I'm approaching this stuff, We're gonna do this one in first. We're looking for a longer first in those situations where we don't have momentum. And then lug. Even that, right? You don't want to panic and drop it down. We're still in a nice gearing to be able to keep that bike lugged and not panic when we're on something steep like this. Get up this. I don't know about this. It's kind of wild. You can see the importance of not only gearing there, making sure we're in the right position, the right spot in the power on the bike when we're doing the technical stuff. You guys can see there, going up 3 teeth in the rear still allows me to have that nice long first for, I always say I almost need a bike for Instagram clips and a bike for hard enduro riding, but we're gonna test a little bit more, get a little more in depth with that gearing setup with 1348. Like I said, I believe I'd be 1248 or 1250, where if I was racing hard enduro and stuff like that. So doing that gearing setup is huge, making sure you find that place where the bike still doesn't rev out too fast. You're not at the top of the power all the time. And then also the brakes. I mean, I've never put high-end brakes on my bike, and you guys can see they're beautiful brakes and they work really well. You know, it's nice to have that feeling of control when you're fully engaged. You know, even doing something like this, using that rear brake, that's nice. You can see I'm fully engaged there. When I hop that front end, it's very important to have a nice rear brake that holds and doesn't blow through. It doesn't feel like it gets a little spongier as you maintain that hold. MotoMaster stuff is pretty dang impressive. I'm excited to continue moving forward with this bike build. We have a lot of cool stuff that we're adding to this machine. Next episode, we're going to be talking about that power delivery, making that bike run as smooth as possible. That's what I'm looking for. I want that thing to run like a carb, a perfectly jetted carb. And right now it's a little bit sputtery, it's a little bit up and down, and I want to fix that. We've got some plans and some really interesting stuff that is coming out to maximize that tunability and adjustability on your TBI and TPI systems. I'm very excited for that. If you guys are enjoying the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto, my personal Instagram page at RichLarson511. And until next time, keep shredding.